on data types. The video will complement the written material, and in the written material you'll also have an opportunity to explore this a little bit more, and with very simple exercises. Data types, a very crucial set of rules that we have in Java. And the way to see a data type is essentially a rule that if you are manipulating data in your code using a variable, then you always have to define what's called its data type explicitly. Okay, you can't assume that it's self-evident. So what we're going to do in this video is just look at a very simple example which reflects the sheet, just to sort of illustrate that point and why the environment complains if you don't explicitly tell the system what type of data a particular variable is. Quick reminder, variable is just a place where you are storing in your code a piece of data or information. Okay, so let's get on and get to the environment. Now, I've got from the previous video a development environment. Now, what I'd like to do is, just for the sake of practice, let's do a new project from scratch just to remind ourselves how it works. Select a project template, select Java, click Next, click Create Project from Template, Command Line App, click Next. Give it a name, and then give your base package some kind of sensible name. Watch my previous videos to explain why. It opens up a fresh environment which looks like this. Okay, there's the name of the project. Let's go over here into the project. You've got the source. In the source, you've got your base folder, and there you've got this starting place. Now, I'm going to call this, rename this using refactor rename as a program, to emphasize the fact that when you run your Java code, it will start here. So anything that you do in any other file related to your program will need to be built and used here. Okay, so keep that in mind for future. Let's have a look at a very simple example. I want to store the age of someone, and I want to say that they are, let's say, in their 50s. Okay. The first thing you will notice is that straight away the word age is in red. Hopefully you can see that, and along here on the bar you can see that there's a red. There's one error highlighted up here, and it will say, if you click on it, cannot resolve symbol age. It's not a very useful message. What it really means is that the word age is a variable, and I'm trying to store the number 53. Look, it makes no difference if I put into age a piece of string data with speech marks, still complains. Makes no difference. It doesn't matter if I'm using a decimal number, still complains. So what is the issue here, and what is the problem for Java and the development environment? As I said in my introductory remark, this is a variable. Age is a variable, okay? Let's move this over to one side so I can just emphasize these points. So this is, as I said, over here, this age is a variable. And the problem is we haven't explicitly told what type of data we are going to store in this variable. So we need to know the rule of how you tell Java what type of data you store. It's very simple. In practice, all you do is, there's the variable name. Before you write the variable name, you write the type of data. If it's whole numbers, you would put the word int. It's turned orange, it's a reserved word. Age, it's now very happy. If you're storing a string, capital S string, you'll notice it isn't so happy, right? And it's saying that what it's noticed is that you're trying to store a number inside a string, so it's complaining. So if you put speech marks around the word 18, it's a string now, it's not complaining. Let's put back our int, our integer, whole number, int, and let's put a decimal value onto the other side. And again, it's complaining. It's complaining because 34.3 is a fraction, and it's what's called a double, right? decimal values are stored, one of the types of data they're stored in are as doubles, what's called a double. Right, so if I replace the word int with the word double, all lowercase, it's happy now. Okay, so let's go back to my original program. I want to store an age. Let's say it's 34. Let's cut that out. Now it's happy. Let's just simply display that on the console. That's how I write it out. System.out.println. I put the name of the variable inside. Put semicolon at the end. Remember, the semicolon in Java indicates a line end. And you might say, what's the point of it? Look at this. If I write one line and then after it I put that, it's not going to have a problem. It's because that works like a carriage return or a new line in other languages. It's a very simple way of stacking lines of code into one line, which in the history of this language was a very useful thing to do. So just bear in mind, every complete instruction should always have this semicolon. Okay, so let's run that. To run it, there's a execute button, a green triangle here, or over here on the top right hand corner. Let's just click it. Down on the bottom right, it's building it. Remember, there's a lot more going on with Java than there is in some other platforms. Pops open the console, displays the number 34. Right, let's just say that you accidentally had a decimal and try to run it. Let's see what it would do. So if we try to run it with a decimal, what's it going to say to us? It's going to actually complain, incompatible types. So what it's saying is, is that the type of that data is a double, right? It's got a decimal, and it's being forced into a whole number, and there's an issue of conversion. Some of you may have seen this. If you're interested in music, the FLAC data type, FLAC, file extension, is what's called a lossless data audio format, whereas an MP3 is a lossy one. Anyway, similar concept. So it's not happy with that. So it won't display it. It won't execute it. If I change that to double, if I can spell it correctly, right, and then run that, 34.4, no problem at all. If I want to store a string and I pass it that number, it's complaining again. And what's the error it's going to throw? Again, incompatible types, right? That's a double, and it's expecting to store it in something which only stores strings. So you need to make the data type correspond to the type of data you are passing it and are going to use it for. With ages, we tend to use whole numbers, so that's our happy starting point. The rest of the worksheet is for you to explore this and test out the variations of the typical types of data you would store.